Namaste, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. I'm very happy to be with you on this important day, International Ayurveda Day, with the people of Brazil, the Ayurvedic students. I want to thank all the organizers involved, particularly our friend Swami Narayan Ananda, Dr. Jose Ruge, and all the Brazilian organizations working with them, and also with the India Foundation and the Ministry of Ayush, which governs the Ayurveda for the India overall. Over the years, I have spent many times visiting Brazil, and I've always been very happy and very inspired by the state of the people, their interest, their friendship, their enthusiasm, their devotion. And I see that as continuing to grow, not only in the field of Ayurveda, but in all the different related Vedic fields, and in the greater pursuit of self-realization, self-healing, and helping the planet overall. And it is my hope that this inspiration continues, because it is yet even more needed today than it was in the past. So today I will give a general overview of my how I view Ayurveda, how I view humanity today, other related issues and considerations involved. But my main purpose is to awaken and inspire you to continue and expand your wonderful work in the field of Ayurveda on whatever level most connects to you and most motivates you, whether it's Ayurveda and plants and herbs, whether it's Ayurveda and massage, whether it's Ayurveda and nutrition, whether it is Ayurveda and Panchakarma, whether it is Ayurveda and Jyotish, whether it is Ayurveda and yoga, all these different related factors, Ayurveda and Vedanta. There is so much in Ayurveda and connecting in so many directions, integration with modern medicine, integration with native traditions, and of course, integration with ourselves and understanding our inner being and our connection with the greater universe as a whole. Ayurveda has been a lifelong inspiration for me. I have been busy teaching Ayurveda and related Vedic knowledge systems for over 40 years now. And I have been studying them for over 50 years. And it is interesting to note that there was, when I started, no interest in this field at all. And that has to be very much kept in mind and made important for us. Because Ayurveda is growing and expanding in many ways, whether it is South America, North America, Europe, whether it is Russia, India. We even did a program in the UAE and Dubai a couple of years ago, showing a great interest there. So the time of Ayurveda has definitely come, and it will continue to grow for the future. Now, we have Ayurvedic schools and treatment centers and Ayurvedic yoga centers throughout the world. And we have books on Ayurveda in all the local languages, as well as in English. We also have books and teachings on Ayurveda throughout India, including television programs and the whole works, the Renaissance of Ayurveda in Bharat as well. So it is a very positive scenario. We also have Ayurvedic products spreading throughout the world. I don't know the details in Brazil, but I do know that here, even in local health food stores, we can find Ayurvedic herbs and products, or we can also find Ayurvedic herbs used along with those of Western herbalism in various formulas. So Ayurveda has definitely arrived, and you are all part of that movement overall. Now, on top of that, of course, we've had this devastating COVID pandemic, not only threatening human health, physical and psychological immunity, but also even restricting what we can do in Ayurveda and other healing traditions, and restricting our work, the seeing of clients, the doing of massage, all these things are limited. And I don't know what the situation is in Brazil. In the United States, it varies from state to state, but overall, the Ayurvedic activity has been restricted to either online or sales from the curb or the mail order with some restrictions and that are lifted here and there. And that future remains uncertain, at least for the immediate future. So there's a short-term decline in what Ayurveda can do. Also, then the regular type of conferences and classes are not easy to do if they can be done at all. So sometimes people in the Ayurvedic field today, and even the yoga field, which is affected the same way, have a certain negativity they may get into or wonder, what is our future? And I want to state very clearly that the future of Ayurveda and yoga is very bright. It is brighter and more relevant than ever, and we must persevere and have the dedication to use the strength of our teachings and traditions. Now, why is that so? And here, there is much we can say. And I would say the main thing is that traditional healing systems, particularly Ayurveda, are very strongly connected to the earth, nature, and what we could say is the universal prana over all, which is the ultimate healing force for all of humanity. And today we are having a breakdown of, as I think I mentioned just briefly, physical and psychological immunity in human beings. This is coming from various reasons: the stress of modern living, the damage to our ecology and our natural environment, our overexposure and overstimulation by electrical and media influences involved, and our perhaps over-reliance on a drug-based medicine rather than on a prana and consciousness-based medicine, which is what Ayurveda offers us. So we can see the artificiality in the diet, the activity, all what is going on in the society. And this can also have a toll on our health, but there are other factors involved that can be beyond our control. Information technology, world travel, diseases can spread faster, and people who are more vulnerable can be affected, like the COVID has its very strong influence on the elderly overall, or people who have, existing health conditions. So I'm not blaming anyone, but the point I want to make is that Ayurveda and yoga also provide us the tools to help us deal with this COVID pandemic era. I'm not saying they have a magical vaccine, they have a magical cure in any possible way. Their medicines are helpful, but overall, Ayurveda teaches us to be in harmony with the world of nature, in harmony with our own inner self, connected to the well springs of being and consciousness within us. So it is an ideal system for right living, positive health, positive immunity, and using all the healing forces of nature, whether it's all the herbs, the foods, the elements like fire and water, whether it is being in nature, and Ayurveda connecting to yoga overall, and its connection then with yogic practices, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, mantra, meditation, a complete way of natural and conscious living. So Ayurveda is relevant to everyone. It begins with each one of us in our daily lives. You do not have to be a doctor of Ayurveda or even a practitioner of Ayurveda to use Ayurveda. You need to have the knowledge of your mind-body constitution, your temperament, your karmic inclination, the gunas involved in you, and you need to be willing to take care of your life on a daily basis, watching your patterns of sleep, exercise, diet, work, spiritual practice, recreation, creativity, the whole of life. So we must first spread and welcome Ayurveda to everyone and teach the fundamentals that are necessary for right living for everyone, which can be very simple. A few dietary, exercise, or herbal changes can work wonders for people and must always be given their place. Now, on top of that, of course, we do have Ayurvedic practitioners of various types. We have the BAMS Ayurvedic doctors from India. We have Ayurvedic doctor programs of a slightly different nature coming up in the West slowly, 4-year programs. We have various Ayurvedic practitioner programs, and there are various Ayurvedic specialization programs, whether Ayurvedic nutrition, Ayurvedic herbology, Ayurvedic massage, Ayurvedic yoga, and related teachings. So Ayurveda has all this scope of practice as well. And Ayurveda has a tremendous clinical value, particularly for treating chronic diseases. But the clinical aspect of Ayurveda is still restricted under certain legal requirements in different countries. It is opening up here and there to some degree. But the full clinical practice of Ayurveda remains for the future, and it is a goal that we are working for and have been working at for various decades. Different countries have their challenges, and overall, the global movement, we can all support one another. But Ayurveda also has a tremendous scope for just wellness counseling, helping people with right living on a daily level, even if they are not suffering from any major health disorders, a way of improving our lives and creating positive health, well-being, prana, and awareness, understanding then also dietary, herbal, massage factors, yoga factors, meditation. This is also extremely helpful. And I've always now emphasized that Ayurvedic practitioners need to develop good counseling skills for communicating with people. In India, the doctors regarded as an authority, so they're often followed without question. But in the West, people need to understand what we're asking them to do, why we're asking them to do it, and where it is going to take them in the future. And they need to be closely monitored. Ayurveda is something unusual or foreign, so sometimes there's some degree of miscomfort or doubt or wondering, how do I know if and when this is working for me? So that is an important consideration. Yet in the same context, in Ayurveda and yoga, we have to learn to deal with the psychology of people And this is the movement for the 21st century overall. Because today, with the exception of the pandemic, we have been suffering from less physical diseases, but more psychological unrest. And even the pandemic itself has been bringing in considerable psychological unrest for people as well, as we can see, including, of course, almost everybody, including the many who do not have the virus, or including the many who have gotten the virus but have either not had symptoms or have overcome the symptoms involved. So there's a psychological malaise over the world right now, and also a consideration of how do we strengthen our immunity, both physical and psychological. Here, Ayurvedic has many special and important tools, like the sciences of prana, tejas, and ojas. Prana accessing the prana life force of nature, both around us and also deeply within us. In fact, we define pranayama not just simply as breathing exercises, but accessing a deeper unitary healing prana, both within our own deeper psyche and also within the greater natural environment, the waters, the forest, the sky, and all the related factors. Tejas, powers of light, warmth, Agni, transformation, insight, perception, motivation, outwardly, inwardly. And the Ayurvedic view, like yoga, we live in a conscious universe, and we must learn to respect the universe as sacred. And also then we can learn how to adapt or employ or use these consciousness forces of nature and the universe in a positive way without exploiting them or without damaging our natural environment. And then, of course, we have the primary force of ojas, our deeper vitality within us, the essence of all the tissues, the essence of food, the essence of our congenital strength. There are well springs of power within us, and yoga and Ayurveda teach us to access them. So we're not just simply looking at drugs externally. They may be helpful, I'm not saying that, but that we're also employing our inner powers, and we're also using nature's energies for positive health and for positive well-being overall. And here I want to raise an important ecological point. We are seeing this weakening of physical and psychological immunity overall. And my point is very clear. We're also damaging the immunity of the planet, which is the power and the integrity of our ecosystems, including the soils, the waters, of course, the atmosphere, the forest. Of course, you have the Amazon forest in Brazil. There are so many factors here. So my point is very clear. We cannot be healthy as a species. We cannot have strong immunity as a species, physically or psychologically, if the pranic force in our natural environment is weak and is disrupted overall. We must understand this. So our work is not just with ourselves and with humanity, with nature. That also means strengthening our natural environment, creating immunity in terms of our personal lifestyle, but also helping the creatures around us, not interfering with them, supporting natural healing, Ayurvedic farms, other farms, communities, herbs, all the rest of it. Ayurveda is a planetary medicine which requires its application with the global and ecological vision. The energies we speak about in Ayurveda, whether it's the three doshas, the three gunas, or the 5 elements. These are universal. We must adapt Ayurvedic teachings according to time, place, person, and culture without compromising their essence. And Ayurveda is ultimately a way of self-healing, self-knowledge, and ultimately self-realization. But that self is not just the physical self or even the psychological self. It is the universal self that is our true being beyond time and space. In terms of Ayurveda, the Purusha that dwells beyond the limitations of Prakriti, the inner seer, the inner power of consciousness, Chit Shakti, Chidananda. We can symbolize these as Shiva Shakti or any number of cosmic forces, but they are an inner reality for all. So Ayurveda brings in the whole of the yogic, Vedantic, and Vedic knowledge, particularly for right lifestyle, and also for any psychological healing and spiritual growth. So it is my message that we don't simply reduce Ayurveda to another clinical medicine that's just going to treat our diabetes, hepatitis, heart disease. That's very important. I don't want to downplay it. But that we also open to the deeper psychological counseling dimensions of yoga and Ayurveda and applying them in our own behavioral medicine, in our own daily lifestyle. Yamas and niyamas of yoga are ideal principles for purifying the mind, for psychological well-being, for emotional healing, which can also be increased by pranayama, mantra, meditation, Ayurvedic herbs, Ayurvedic massage. So we also need Ayurvedic rejuvenation practices, rejuvenation centers, places to increase our immunity, to work together, to connect to nature. So there are so many things that you as Ayurvedic students, practitioners, or simply as Ayurvedic well-wishers can do. So please be aware of that for the future. I know we are restricted in movement now, particularly in the West. I think Brazil may be a little bit more open, but still caution is required. And yet, as things move forward for the future, Ayurveda will become more relevant because we cannot create positive health with drugs alone, because drugs have no prana, and drugs substitute for our own internal activity. Again, I'm not saying they're not necessary or extremely helpful or even life-saving in many circumstances. I'm also not against vaccines and all of that, but that for longer-term positive health, so that we no longer are likely to face immune system problems, the pranic medicines, the yogic medicine, the consciousness-based healing is very important and needs to be strengthened, needs to be brought properly into play and adapted. In Brazil, you have the most wonderful plants. You have a wonderful tropical, subtropical environment for growing many Ayurvedic plants, for accessing nature's healing prana. I have experienced that there. And we see Brazil has a wonderful future for Ayurveda and for consciousness-based approaches at all levels. There's also a resonance in the native cultures of South America. There are also connections via India. It goes long, of course, to the old Portuguese trade, stopped on the way to India in Brazil. Common plants like the mangoes that have been adapted here, I think papayas, which I think originally came from Brazil, are now all over India. So these factors are there and must be honored and considered. So it's very important to support the Ayurvedic cause, Ayurvedic schools, online training as necessary. We are doing what we can. not only in the United States, we have been working throughout the world, and we have been very active on the India side in recent years. Now we're focusing more on the American side again as we are here, but we are looking to the world as a whole. So in closing, I send you our best wishes, not only myself, but Yogini Shambhavi, and she has a very great affection for the Brazilian people and the Brazilian women. She's continuing to give webinars, Facebook, Instagram to connect with people. We've also made all of our courses online. We've developed our social media, things that we didn't have so much in the past. We're trying to adapt to the challenges of today and also to the new technology overall. So with these words, please let all the divine grace of Ayurveda come through you, all the inner powers of self-awareness in Ayurveda flow within you, and the great universal knowledge and wisdom that is common to all humanity in realms of healing and self-realization be with you. And may this Ayurveda Day usher in a new era of healing and transformation for all. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om Tat Sat.